I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? This is what Jesus told Martha today in our gospel, that he is both the resurrection and the life. Now, I want to wait until Easter to really delve deeper into what it means for Jesus to be the resurrection. For today, I want to focus on what it means for Jesus being the life, and how through our faith, we have greater access to that supernatural life that God offers us. And so let's begin. First, we hear in the gospel, Jesus declares that he is the life. But what exactly is that life? For some of us, we might understand that life be something similar to what we're experiencing on this earth. But our lives, with its ups and downs, with its joys and sufferings, is a life that is experiencing the effects of sin, both in ourselves and in our world. And we understand this from the fall of Adam and Eve. And as we know, a biblical worldview is a true worldview. So if what we are experiencing right now in this world is not exactly the life that Jesus is referring to, what is it? Well, the answer is, it is Jesus' own supernatural, divine life. Now, that divine life is of a radically different quality and nature than that of our own. It's one of a life of unimaginable and radical peace, of a restoration, of healing, satisfaction, and joy. The list can go on. And so the life that Jesus offers us is one of infinitely greater quality. So how does Jesus give us that life? Well, it's through the sacrament of baptism. We're there, as we hear the Gospel of John explain, where we receive the living water of the Holy Spirit. And by the Holy Spirit, we become transformed and share in the divine nature. We live in communion with God, and we share intimately in all the blessings of heaven. But here's the thing. For many of us, we believe that only in heaven will we have access to that kind of life. And don't get me wrong, in heaven will be the fullness of that life, where there will be no more pain, no more sorrow, no more suffering. However, it's important to remember that what makes heaven heaven, what makes heaven what it is God who dwells in heaven. Now, who dwells in us because of our baptism? God. We might hear ourselves being described as temples of the Holy Spirit, temples of God. So if God dwells within us, that means then that heaven too dwells within us. Jesus says in the gospel, I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. The life that Jesus speaks about in the gospel is something already within us, as we have access to heaven already by virtue of our baptism, and for as long as we live in communion with God in sanctifying grace. But what that means then is that heaven can explode out into our lives, along with all the healing, all the peace and restoration that comes with heaven. We can experience it in this life as a foretaste of what is to come. But this is what is important then for us to know about that, is that faith is what is required in order to see the effects of this supernatural life burst forth into our lives. When Jesus declares to Martha that he is the resurrection and the life, he follows with a personal question. He says, do you believe this? Faith, belief in what Jesus promises us and tells us. That is what moves us to ask Jesus for more of this life in abundance. And God, he's a gentleman. He respects our human freedom. And so if we don't seek him out in faith, or if we don't allow our faith to influence our lives, then God will wait until we do so, until we ask him to. So my challenge for all of us here is to seek out that life that Jesus has given to you in baptism, a life that he offers you so readily. And for some of us, we might be already experiencing the joys of living in God, just of living in the Holy Spirit. And so my challenge for you is not to set a limit on the more that God has in store for you. Not to set a limit, for God promises abundance and even more than we can imagine. And so seek after and find for that life that God has given to us and offers us, so that you may see heaven and its power burst forth out into your lives.